What's going on, guys? Devin here with Backcountry Exposure. Now, I'm not really one that really enjoys boil test style videos on comparisons of stoves. So I'm kind of being a little hypocritical in this video today because we are going to do boil tests on various canister stoves and kind of have a canister stove showdown specifically to compare against this one stove that I've been very intrigued about for a long time that showed up in the mail yesterday. So we're going to do a boil test and a comparison of the Soto WindMaster against 4 other canister stoves that I own and kind of talk about why this thing is so impressive in the tests, at least that I've done so far with it. Now, the biggest reason that I've wanted to do this video is because there's a lot of like boil test style videos out there of comparing things, comparing different types of canister stoves, and obviously it's impossible for me to represent every type of canister stove out there. I only have like 5 here for me to do a comparison on, and there's plenty of other more popular stoves that a lot of people use. The reason that I am doing this is because there's a lot of claims about this stove, and before I take it out into the backcountry, I wanted to see how it compared specifically to my other canister stoves and really see how well does this thing perform in what it claims. And so I started looking at all of the different specs and very specific things about each of these other canister stoves that I have, as well as other stoves that are on the market, to see how I can make a comparison of a stove be a little more valid, be a little more educational, and gain a better understanding of what really makes a stove stand out more than others. And I'm going to break the news to you a little bit. I'm filming this section of the video after I've already done the boil tests. So I already know all of the information about what really makes a spoiler, this Soto WindMaster, honestly a truly superior stove, at least in the conditions that I've tested it today. Now, what I want to do as we get into showing you these boil tests clips is the conditions of each test that I did. Now, we have 2 cups of cold tap water from my kitchen sink. It's about 90 degrees out doing the test, and each stove was tested on a fairly fresh canister, meaning that after I did the test, I set that one canister aside and put a fresh canister that had not had a stove running on it yet, meaning that the fuel inside didn't have a chance to get cold. It was sitting out in the 90-degree weather, and I rotated between 3 canisters as I did these tests. Now, what's important about that is I try to keep things as real and as equal as possible between the stoves, and so that was the idea behind rotating the canisters instead of having one test using the same canister and putting on another stove while that fuel inside was getting cold and depressurizing, or whatever the conditions are for that. Other things to consider are the fact that I used the same cook pot each time. I made sure to run the pot under cold water before I put it back onto another stove, so it was in the same temperature conditions as each test, as well as I turned the stove all the way up to full blast, lit the stove, and then put the pot of water onto the stove, and then I started the timer. Okay, so now it's time for results of this particular experiment slash test, and I'm gonna put the results here up on the screen. But what was impressive to me is the Soto was the first stove to have the test done on it. Clearly was the highest and best performer of these stoves with a cook time or boil time of 2 minutes and 46 seconds. Now that's super, super impressive. I've not really experienced a canister stove that has been able to accomplish that kind of time in a boil test with 2 cups of water ever before. The second stove that I used was the Olicamp Ion Micro, and this had a boil time of 4 minutes and 45 seconds. Then was the GSI Pinnacle 4-season stove, and this was just shy of 5 minutes, so 4 minutes and 59 seconds. And then next was the Superfly from MSR. This had a boil time of 3 minutes and 10 seconds, give or take. Like, this isn't super precise, down to like hundredths of a second, guys. Next stove was the Olicamp Kinetic Ultra, 4 minutes 26 seconds. And so that was the 5 tests that I did in a row. After I completed the test of the Kinetic Ultra, I immediately took the stove off of the canister, and with the same canister, having just run for 4 minutes 26 seconds, I put the Soto WindMaster back onto the canister that was just used, because I wanted to see what this would be capable of accomplishing. This achieved a boil time of 4 minutes and 1 second, so significantly slower than the first test, but you have to consider that the canister was cold from being used and running for over 4 minutes in the previous test with the kinetic stove, and about 25-30 seconds after the water came to a boil at that 4 minute time, the canister ran out of fuel. So we're running at pretty much the lowest optimal performance that you would expect from a stove. Now, one more really important thing to discuss about these stoves in this comparison is the BTUs that these stoves are capable of having in their output. I've got some notes here to make sure that I put the correct numbers to it, but what's interesting is the higher the BTU, the faster the boil rate or the boil time was. So the Soto stove comes in at 2.35 ounces in weight, and it has a 11,000 BTU rating. The Ion Micro, 1.6 ounces, 8,900 BTUs. The GSI, 5.7 ounces, 9,820 BTUs. The MSR Superfly, 5.2 ounces, 10,000 BTUs. And the Kinetic Ultra, 1.75 ounces, 9,620 BTUs. So what's interesting about this is the stoves with the higher BTU rating absolutely achieved a faster boil time than the other stoves. Something else that's really intriguing to me about the Soto specifically is how close the pot sits to the stove burner itself, and that concave shape compared to something like this Ion Micro. And the reason that I'm bringing this one up specifically is the Ion Micro is going to compare closest to the really popular BRS stove that you can get on Amazon, and how far away the pot is from that burner compared to this burner. So what's important about this, guys, is sometimes you got to spend a little bit more money to get a stove that's going to perform much better. And in this case, the $75 for the Soto WindMaster to have the highest BTUs that I've had on any stove that I've owned and achieve a really, really lightweight 2.35 ounces makes this a clear winner, in my opinion, in initial first impressions of scientific experimentation. It's just a awesome, superior stove, and I'm psyched to have this in my backpacking system now. This is going to replace all of my other canister stoves because of how well in this initial test this has performed. So hopefully that was helpful for you guys in getting an understanding of what makes a canister stove outperform others and how it might work better in various types of conditions. So with that, guys, leave your comments and questions and discussion down in the comment section. I'd be really intrigued to see what you guys think of this particular test, what I could have done differently, what you liked about it, that kind of thing. And as always, guys, hit that subscribe button if you haven't, and have an awesome day. We'll catch you on the next video.